And welcome back to South Florida Arts Beat here on 91.3 WLRN, South Florida's NPR news station, and 91.5 WKWM, NPR for the Florida Keys. Hello, Ed Bell with you. Later on the program, our classical arts contributor, Charles Greenfield, speaks with Michael Ellert about the exciting fall performances by the Palm Beach Chamber Music Festival. Chef Norman Van Aken cooks up a word on food, and Vice President of the Palm Beach County Cultural Council, Bill Nix, delivers his Palm Beach Arts Calendar. Welcome back to South Florida Arts Beat here on 91.3 WLRN, South Florida's NPR news station, and 91.5 WKWM, NPR for the Florida Keys. Hello, this is Ed Bell. Later on the program, Chef Norman Van Aken serves up a word on food, and Bill Nix, Vice President of the Palm Beach County Cultural Council, gives us his arts calendar. Founded in the summer of 1992, this chamber music nonprofit has delighted thousands of its patrons and donors, performing over 400 works over the decades and making available 6 lauded CDs on the Klavier label. Here's Charles Greenfield to tell us more.
It's been common knowledge for over a decade that South Florida is no longer a provincial backwater for music and cultural activities. With the emergence of powerful music anchors like the Arts Center and Miami Beach's New World Symphony, there has been a shift also among smaller organizations in the arts to consolidate in harder economic times through creating imaginative funding and discovering less exploited niches. In the northern area of South Florida, namely the Palm Beaches, musical activity has remained strong and somewhat under the radar. A fine example is the Palm Beach Chamber Music Festival. Clarinetist Michael Forte, flutist Karen Dixon, and bassoonist Michael Ellert, all 3 principal chairs in the Palm Beach Opera Orchestra, have gathered 19 very fine regional chamber and symphonic players and elicited their suggestions for programs that serve Palm Beach and Broward audiences. Their 2013 summer series in July featured serenades by Brahms and Beethoven, an arrangement of tunes by Rossini, a Dvorak string quintet, and a Mozart viola-violin duo. Michael Ellert studied at Juilliard with Harold Kolzer and in Israel with Mordecai Reckman of the Israel Philharmonic. Besides being principal bassoon of the Palm Beach Opera Orchestra, he freelances for the Southwest Florida Symphony in Fort Myers, Boca Raton Sinfonia, and is the newly appointed principal bassoon of the Opus 1 Orchestra of the Miami City Ballet. He is on the board of directors and is a founding member of the Palm Beach Chamber Music Festival. He also performs on all 6 Chamber Music Palm Beach CDs on the Klavier music production label. Michael Ellert, welcome to South Florida Arts Beat.
Thank you for inviting me to speak with you today.
Give us a quick history of the Palm Beach Chamber Music Festival, its origins, organizers, and mission statement.
Well, in 1992, Michael Forte, who is the principal clarinet player of the Palm Beach Opera, approached myself and Karen Dixon about playing some chamber music during the summer. And I had no idea that he actually meant playing some performances. I thought we were just going to get together and do something in the summer to just play chamber music with our friends. Turned out that he had already spoken to Lee Bell, who was then working at the Palm Beach Junior College in Lake Worth, and they had talked about actually doing a concert series. So with Karen Dixon, the principal flute player, and I'm the principal bassoon player of the Palm Beach Opera, we started this festival. We played our first concert, and we're expecting nobody in the audience except for possibly Michael Forte's parents, and walked out to a full audience. So we were encouraged by that response, and we got our 501c3 status that summer, and now we're in our 22nd year.
Well, that's not a bad beginning. How do your concerts differ from those of other South Florida chamber music groups?
I think our biggest difference is there are 2. One is that we have a core group of 10 musicians. That's a string quintet, that's 2 violins, violoncello, and bass, and a woodwind quintet, flute, oboe, clarinet, bassoon, and horn, and then a trumpet and a piano. And we try very hard to mix up the ensembles as much as possible so that we don't do an all-string quartet concert or an all-woodwind quintet concert, which, of course, there's nothing wrong with, but we try to really mix it up. That's the first thing. And the second thing is that we really try to vary the music so that you might hear a Beethoven string quartet, but you also might hear a flute and French horn duet by Jan Bach. So we really mix it up a lot that way, and it's very eclectic and very different for the audience.
Now, how do you select your repertoire then and determine what your anchor pieces will be?
That's actually a good question. We send out a wish list to all the regular members of the festival, and they send us, they want to play a Brahms trio for piano, violin, and cello. And then we use that as the anchor piece, and then we'll work around that piece to find smaller pieces and pieces that fit the other instrumentation needs that we have of the 12 people that normally play. So we start with those pieces. Sometimes the anchor piece may not be a big piece, but it might be, let's say, a flute quartet by Mozart. And then we figure out around that who else needs to play, and then we might find a big piece to end the program with. But it's a combinations of instruments and requests from our fellow performers.
Now, you just concluded your 22nd Annual Summer Festival on July 28th. In less than a month, you'll be launching your inaugural Fall Series. Is there a theme for the fall concerts? What are some of the works you will be performing?
Well, we actually don't have a theme per se. We're going to continue with what we do, which is our eclectic programming. And some of the big pieces that we already have decided on is that Michael Forte will play the Mozart Clarinet Quintet, which probably is one of the greatest pieces of chamber music ever written. The strings and piano will play a Brahms C minor trio for piano, violin, and cello. We will be doing a Nino Rota piece for flute, violin, and piano, a James Stevenson trumpet sonata, a piece by Francois-René Gebauer for bassoon, violin, and cello. There is going to be the Stravinsky Octet, which is a mixture of woodwinds and brass. The Jolivet Pastorale de Noël for flute, bassoon, and harp. It's very eclectic and very mixed up with the instrumentations.
Now, you've said that your festival should be called the Just Trust Us Festival. You said you always pull out pieces nobody knows and a lot of us haven't heard. And you've discovered all kinds of composers who are wonderful and no one has heard of. South Florida audiences, they tend to be quite conservative. Isn't there a risk involved?
There's a big risk. A couple of years ago, we programmed the Schoenberg Verklärte Nacht, which is Schoenberg. I mean, he's got his name on it. However, it is one of the most romantic pieces ever written. It's more Brahms in some ways than Brahms himself. So what our audiences have discovered is that even if they, and maybe even especially if they don't recognize the name, they may walk out going, how come I've never heard of this composer before? How is it possible?
Well, that's a wonderful piece, the Schoenberg, and
yes.
I certainly wouldn't have walked out on that. To date, you've recorded 6 CDs on the Klavier label under the name Chamber Music Palm Beach. Do you have plans to make additional recordings, and if so, what works will you include, and where can folks go to hear selections from your recordings?
Well, we are talking about maybe making a 7th recording next summer, possibly, maybe the summer after that. Repertoire is not chosen until we actually secure time and place and all that stuff. So right now we have no idea what we'll record on that. But I promise you what it will be was, again, just trust us, because all of our recordings are mostly pieces that have either never been heard before or recorded before or have only been recorded maybe once or is out of print. So we really do look for things that people are looking for if they're looking for something different, rather than recording all the things that the big ensembles always record.
Now, finally, what do you see in the near future for South Florida in terms of cultural growth, especially in the Palm Beaches?
Well, when I arrived in Florida myself, it was 1983. And there were things going on here. There was Palm Beach Opera, there was Palm Beach Symphony, there was Ballet Florida. But the paradigm had always been, and it still is to a certain degree, that there's nobody here during the summer, and that people just go home. The snowbird syndrome. We have disproved that, and we want to continue. I think what we realize now is that a very small percentage of Palm Beach County residents are actually snowbirds. Most people really do live here all year round, and I think that Palm Beach is one of the best places in the world to live. It's beautiful weather, and there's great people down here, and I think the cultural scene just needs a little support from everybody out there, but I think this is a great place to be, and I think we're going to see great things happening culturally all around the county.
Well, with your fall series coming up soon, I'm sure that the crowds will be coming. And Michael Ellert, I want to thank you for attending South Florida Arts Beat.
And thank you again for inviting me to talk with you.
The Palm Beach Chamber Music Festival has been bringing enjoyable and accessible music to Palm Beach County audiences now for over 22 years. With their combination of romantics like Beethoven and Dvorak, modern composers such as Villa-Lobos, Khachaturian, and Dognani, and lesser-known contemporary composers, the formula has worked well. It will be interesting to see how they take their festival and extend it to a fall and perhaps spring concert series. For information, call 800-330-6874 or go to their website at pbcmf.org. For South Florida Arts Beat, I'm Charles Greenfield.
Charles Greenfield is a classical music contributor for the Sun Sentinel and has written for the Miami Herald. You can email him at cdgpm@bellsouth.net. Please stay with us. South Florida Arts Beat continues in just a moment.